legislative session starts at the beginning of the year, and one of the pressing issues is this transfer issue. Now, a couple of senators have gotten together and maybe have come up and brokered a deal. Covering it for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Elisa Krause, and she joins us by phone. Good morning, Elisa. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
All right, so let's start from the beginning. 2,200 students left Normandy. The judge ruled that the Kansas City School District, they're allowed to leave. So this is a pressing issue. The senators can't kick it down the road anymore. So what did these senators come up with?
Well, they came up with a pretty comprehensive bill, and bear in mind the bill will probably look nothing like this as it moves through the legislature, but it addresses a number of things. It allows for greater flexibility for charter schools, so a school district such as Clayton or Parkway, any school district could open up a charter school in the unaccredited districts. It does, it does a number of things in terms of sort of limiting the number of students, or at least not really trying to limit them in terms of keeping them out of good schools, but trying to create better options for them closer to home.
This was bipartisan, was it not?
Yeah, three Republicans, 3 Democrats.
Okay, and one of the things that's sort of been gaining some speed is the idea of, even though there might be a school or two in a district that is deemed failing, the whole district isn't failing, but the whole district is called failing, and try and transfer those students from the one bad school in the district to a better school in that district, correct?
Right. So say, and this is better illustrated in St. Louis Public Schools. So within St. Louis Public Schools, even though the entire district isn't necessarily failing, but it's struggling at this point, you have quite a few really high-performing schools in the city of St. Louis. So if St. Louis were to become unaccredited in the next couple of years, then students would first, if a bill like this were to become law, then students would be required to transfer to those higher achieving schools within the district before they could transfer out.
Right. Charter schools, that the money goes with the kid, right? So if this law were to be in effect and Clayton were to start a charter school in the Normandy School District and the kid went to this charter school, the money would leave the Normandy School District and go to this charter school.
That's true. That's true. But it wouldn't be quite the same as the transfer situation now, where the money following the student in many cases is more than the amount that Normandy is almost having to pay more for that student to leave than it's losing just by that student moving into a new school district.
Right.
I know there's also concern about class size with student transferring to other districts. This new legislation would also allow for some space issues too, right?
Right. So it would put that into law. So right now in practice, schools are turning kids away for space reasons, but that isn't spelled out in statute. So school districts could be on shaky ground if someone were to come forward and sue. So this would actually put that into law.
And saying that, hey, prove you don't have any space, basically.
Right. So it would require school districts each year to publish their class size policies, their student-teacher ratios, and then they would be having to abide by that.
Yeah. Did you find anybody who was against this plan right off the bat?
Not yet. There are some groups who told me, you know what, we're a little hesitant to talk to you right now because we want to take our concerns first to the senators and some of the groups that are some of the state reps that are filing some bills right now. But in the next couple of weeks we might come forward with some points of concern.
Yeah, I did find interesting. You talked to Kay Cassis, who is big into keeping the current law. She's actually okay with this in some ways.
Yeah, well, her concern is just that if you eliminate one space or one potential spot in a higher performing school for a child in an unaccredited district, that you do something to compensate for that. So whether that be creation of another charter of higher performing charter schools, or her organization in the past has been a proponent of tuition tax credits, which would allow students to it would be more affordable for them to attend private schools on the public's dime.
Yeah, let's say this law passes or some law passes and they change the way they currently do it. The student who left Normandy, who's now established in their high school, their new high school now, are they going to be forced to go back to their old high school, or what happens to those kids?
Well, it just depends on what laws pass. So if the statute remains largely intact as it is now, and as long as students who live in unaccredited districts are allowed to attend higher performing schools, then that student should probably be allowed to continue there,
right.
Because unless Normandy were to regain accreditation.
Right. So it would depend on how the law is written, what happens to that poor kid being jerked around.
That's true, right.
Yeah. Did they get any input when they were putting this together with any educators?
They said no. They said they did it. They did it just based on they all kind of got together based on the facts that they knew, and they put it together.
I mean, something's got to come out of this legislative session, right?
You'd think so, but that's what people have said in the past.
That's what they've been saying for the last 20 years.
Right. When the Turner case was working its way through the courts, and everyone was concerned that this would be a situation involving St. Louis Public Schools, everyone kept saying, well, surely they'll do something to address it. But in the end, ultimately, nothing happened.
Yeah. Interesting that all of these people from the St. Louis area, and Kansas City area is the one with the pressing issue, much more pressing than the Normandy School District transfer. Any Kansas City legislators chime in on any of this?
Well, not on this particular bill, but there are. I mean, last I looked, there are more than a dozen bills that have been filed by lawmakers from the Kansas City area, the St. Louis area. This is just one bill of many.
Right. Interesting stuff. Elisa Crouch will read your story as well as the following stories at STLTODAY.com. Thanks for getting up early with us. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You got it. Elisa Crouch here filling in the story for us here on the Big 550.